T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
That looked like a pimp slap.
I gotta keep my pimp hand strong. This is Mr. Godiva. That's my pimp name too. It is what it is. Chocolate Daddy. That's what my hoes say. That's what it is. They like when I call them hoes. It's all good. Welcome to another episode.
Welcome to the end of the fucking world.
Yeah, Pluto Scorpio. All the Pluto Scorpios are like, it's about time. All the Pluto Sagittarius are like, yes, yes, yes. All the Pluto Leos and Virgos are like, what? What's happened? Did you see that video of that old man they're sharing? He's like in hundreds, like, this isn't the country I fought for to build. And I'm like, nope. He looked like he was Pluto Cancer. I empathize with him, but he looked like he was Pluto Cancer.
Nowadays, people don't appreciate their freedoms or what they have because they're not fighting for the country.
That specifically he was remorsing about, like how people take for granted.
Because nowadays, men are just hanging out in their mom's basements, fucking jerking off, playing video games, eating Hot Pockets.
Oh, I remember those days.
Call of Duty doesn't
Specifically the Hot Pockets. Yeah. Good days. But, you know, I think it's all a part of being American in the 90s. 2000s or whatever. But yeah, shout out to those of y'all who made your exodus and built your own thing. Shout out to those of y'all stealing your mom's
Not for long, motherfuckers.
Hey, it's cool if you paying her rent, you know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, I wouldn't even mind moving back, but that's because I'm Capricorn miserly and I just don't want to pay rent, although I don't mind. But see, my mom's basement is like a whole like bachelor's pad. So like, it's a little different. But like...
Even though she's a Nigerian mom, she likes to party?
She doesn't. She keeps to herself. Like everyone else in the Nigerian community be partying, but like she keeps to herself expressly. I got my hermit nature from her.
She's a boss.
Yeah,
like
she is.
Moon.
Yeah. Goes to work early in the morning, comes back late at night. Keeps to herself. But... yeah, you know what I'm saying? I kind of like that we started on that because that's a huge cultural shift. You know, a lot of men didn't do that or had the luxury to do that before. And I think we're at a period with this Uranus North Node where that's coming to a head. You know?
We're at that period where they're like, most Americans are too fat or too lazy or too much of a pussy. That we're just going to create robots and send them into battle because that's ultimately what's coming. It's true. The Mars, North Node, Uranus, we're going to find out that, like, the service industry, cops, healthcare, like, and also, like, the military, like, it's all going to start being, like, transhumanism and, like, robots type shit, so.
It's setting up Pluto Aquarius, for sure.
So today is kind of like a part 2. So previously in previous episodes, we talked to you guys about this Mars North Node Uranus conjunction, what that might bring. If you need to watch that, watch it again. Leave us a comment, get a refresher. Last week, we talked all about Leo season, and now we are coming back with the promise episode that we had of going through all the 12 rising signs, talking to you about where this Mars North Node conjunction with Uranus is taking place in Taurus for each and every one of the 12 signs. Things to look for, predictions that we're making, how it's going to be affecting you guys in your lives.
And also, how fucked you are. Just depending on your sign now. But
I guess we should, speaking of how fucked you are, we should talk about the hot zones so people know. So the hot zones are going to be 17 to 19 degrees of the fixed signs. So if you have 17 to 19 degrees of a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, you will be affected by this because the squares are going to be taking place in a angular house, which means it's going to be very loud, it's going to be active.
Personal planets too?
Personal planets as well. If you have any planets
Houses.
within these degrees, it's a really good idea to get a reading because this is general. When we look at a chart, we're looking at how all the planets are kind of making aspects to one another. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about is general today, but
How wide of an orb are you going to give it?
17 to 19, so a 2-degree orb.
2-degree orb.
Give it a 2-degree orb. And the people who are going to feel it the most, obviously, are Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Next by, Scorpio, Aquarius, and also Leo. So, yeah, but Scorpio and Taurus, I think, are probably going to be feeling this the most because you're going to be experiencing the conjunction or the opposition. But that's not taking away from Aquarius and Leo because you're going to feel it as well. So if you have any planets there, pay attention. Definitely be looking into reading your horoscope, stuff like that. I know Mike sometimes does. You do live readings on your channel sometimes. We do live readings here when we shoot the podcast. I've got live readings on my channel every Saturday night, and I also did a webinar that was all about this conjunction. So by the time you guys are watching it, the webinar is over. But you can go and still purchase the webinar on my website. So if you go to beyondtheveiltarot.com, it's a several-hour presentation that's all about this particular transit, and I give all kinds of recommendations and timelines and all kinds of things of when this conjunction will be reactivated and how to prepare for it for all the 12 signs as well. So
don't purchase it if you don't want freakily accurate insight that'll just come true exactly as she said.
I went through all the timelines of like when the North Node and Uranus have conjuncted the last 100 years, and then I also went throughout history with what happened, and then I looked at when the conjunctions happen in Taurus before I make predictions, and then I talk about global, political, financial, environmental, all kinds of stuff that's going to be happening. We're going to look at like Bitcoin's chart. We're going to look at the stock exchange chart, the United States chart. We go through all of them, and then we talk about what's going to happen for everybody personally. And if you want like gem or crystal recommendations, herbal recommendations, ways to just deal with the energy, because the energy can be quite difficult, check it out. So the conjunction for Aries and Aries rising between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node are taking place in your second house, and this is important because Aries, you're ruled by Mars.
Second house.
Mm-hmm.
Aries second house. Okay. But you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
the conjunction.
Yep.
Okay. So, this will be a common theme for fire signs. I get excited when I see this because Earth houses, it's good for money. It's really more good for making the means to make money. But this is such a direct application. Like a lot of Aries are not, and Aries risings are just this archetype, aren't really just manifesting. The key thing about this is what you're manifesting, no one else has manifested. Like this opens up, just like for Leo, the opportunity to create your own monopoly. And so, a great basic way to see this is investing in crypto and being able to see long-term options. But a main facet of this conjunction is taking action on unconventional beliefs around what you're worth. And let me not even say unconventional beliefs, but an unconventional sense of your value. You want to take actions as if you knew you were an infinity heir. If you were to tell someone that you were worth infinity and that, technology hasn't been created to liquidate the value you have, people will look at you like you're crazy. Congratulations, Uranus in your second. You're very radical about your worth. And like taking action there will have, unlock this destiny to create that. And you have Jupiter in your sign. So like you're moving forward. I can bring in so many other planets, but I really just want to focus on that second house because all the other planets really will just coral around how valuable you break through. And that square to Saturn is that clash from the collective that's like, you're not worth that much. And you're like, bitch, I am. Watch me. And, bringing that vulgarity, bringing that authenticity will really play its part into manifesting miracles. So, embrace the unconventional because you're manifesting destiny. And a lot of what y'all are manifesting as the first sign will be something other people have never done. It'll be the first time it's done. And people follow your lead. You know the deal.
It's about being innovative.
Right.
Sudden opportunities to like really develop generational wealth is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And like striking while the iron's hot with Mars and Uranus conjunct in the second house, you might see a chance opportunity to move in on investing in something, buying a cryptocurrency, buying land, but somehow the Uranus conjunction ties into the 11th house, which means it might be made possible because of crowdfunding or something that you do, or
Right.
you buy
I love
property
that.
with a friend, or
Yeah.
maybe you decide to say, you know what, fuck this. Like, I want to raise my worth. I know I'm worth more than this. I'm going to Jerry Maguire out of my job, and I'm going to go and team up with a like-minded friend or a person, and I'm going to start my own business, and we're gonna do it our own way. While challenging, certainly is challenging, because you're going to see that the need to establish yourself more so independently versus amongst a group of people is going to bring lots of wild fluctuations in your resources. So there can be like this sense of like, do I take the jump? Like, it's going to cost money to make money. I have to invest in something. I have to buy something, or have to incorporate big risk, big reward is kind of the feeling that I get for Aries rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the coolest thing about that is you have Jupiter in your sign. So like, the more risk, the greater reward, and you have luck. You are luck right now.
And there's
so.
lots of optimism in the midst of this transit, because you also have trines to your 5th house. So whether you're deciding to, launch a creative venture, become a parent, follow your dreams, become your own boss, whatever it is, there's like a real sense of optimism. And while this conjunction is happening, yes, Jupiter is retrograde, but it's giving you the opportunity to really put a lot of emphasis just in your personal beliefs and really kind of starting new chapters, I think, is really the big thing in following those pursuits. So it looks really good for you, Aries. Very exciting. For Taurus and Taurus risings, so you have Mars in the North Node and Uranus all conjuncting in your sign. It's going to be taking place in your 1st house if you're a Taurus rising. This is important because it's taking place in your sign. I would say for Taurus rising, probably the biggest thing is just going to be really embracing your intuition, because Mars is the lord of your 12th house, and you see that conjunction with your 12th house lord, Mars, and also Uranus, which is your 10th house lord. So many Tauruses are venturing into uncharted territory when it comes to their career, learning to be more independent, following their hunches, their intuition, working with spirituality, or anything in regards to mysticism or things that are a little out there. I could see like a lot of Tauruses that are like learning more about astrology, or implementing like philosophy and astrology with that conjunction that's taking place. In the 1st house, I think it's the struggle of independence versus responsibility. And there is the sense of you being really rebellious and really wanting to break free, because you're going to see squares to the 10th house Saturn. So it's like a lot of like wanting to pierce the nose and get the mohawk, but having to show up to a job where you have to wear a suit, and wanting to challenge the status quo of not always wanting to feel like being professional has to fit a certain image. So there can be lots of more radical senses of self-expression, major dramatic changes in your hair, your clothes, tattoos, piercings.
What do you mean I can't work here and have an OnlyFans?
Yeah.
How dare you?
And this is going to be really active for Taurus and Taurus rising, because you're going to see that there are going to be challenges as planets move through Taurus, and they come into a square with Saturn in your 10th house. So you're really wanting to be rebellious, and then it's also squaring off with your 4th house, which is going to be about your home, and your 7th house, which is about your partnership. So I could see a lot of Tauruses being like, I really want to be my own boss. I don't want to have to show up at a certain time. I want to cut my hair and dye it and be wacky, and like, I'm kind of getting a little fed up with my partner, and not really wanting to be home all the time. And you're going to feel during these transits a sense of needing to be more focused with actually what's going on in your home base, because you've got planets going through your 4th house of Leo, opposing Saturn. So I can see a lot of Tauruses that are like, I don't want to stay home and take care of kids, or like, I don't want to go to work, like, I want to be free. And friction that can come with either romantic partners or business partners as a result of like this feeling of just wanting to like act out.
I really like that Saturn square you mentioned a lot of, but I think that's also career breakthrough too.
Well, and the Mars square Saturn is going to bring up the themes of just the 7th house for Taurus, which is Scorpio, and perhaps like a meeting of the minds where like you and a partner have to agree to disagree about, where you're going professionally, or your responsibilities, or anything in regards to home and family. Certainly, like I said, all the fixed signs are going to feel this, but Taurus, when you have planets go through Leo, you're really going to feel it, and you're going to start realizing that some of the most rebellious things that you could do is not always be focused on work. It could be focused on relocating. It could be focused on your family. It could be focused on what's going on in your domestic zone, and that you may need to kind of take a sidestep away from your impulsive rebelliousness and also your responsibilities at work.
Beautiful.
For Gemini and Gemini rising, this North Node Uranus conjunction with Mars is taking place in your 12th house. And yeah.
South Node is unlocking your 6th house. So I can relate to that. There's a lot of behavioral transformation that, whether gradual or you took cold turkey, you're starting to see the results of and for. So the whole purpose of this is to manifest new grounded spirituality. And being as mental as you are, or as crazy as we can be, there could have been difficulty with castles built in the sky, making real sense of what that looks like until now. So a lot of this, once again, I feel like the South Node is very crucial because certain habits, certain lifestyles, like your whole life is transforming in order to really map this. Because then it'll go into Aries and this philosophy you're sharing with your friends. So it's definitely going to be breaking you through into more unconscious habits that, squaring Saturn, strengthen these more advanced beliefs and philosophies, which are inherently, down in science or rooted in science. And so the cool thing about this is taking unconventional beliefs that seemingly make no sense and being able to align it with this higher knowledge in a way that really gives you a secret. And a lot of the secret is tied to this transformation of your behavior while Pluto is in your 8th, completely ethering and transforming your boundaries. So lots of transformations that Gemini is having to enjoy or reluctantly kick and scream and go through. And of course, with Jupiter in the 11th, this really expands more how the influence of your social circle aids in how your behavior is being transformed.
For the better or for worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see the 6th house being habits and the 11th house being the ruler. Mars being the
Right.
ruler of the 11th house
Yeah.
is like, is there a lot of bad habits that are taking place because of who you're hanging around,
Yep.
and you're becoming who you spend the most time with?
Exactly.
And with the North Node Mars Uranus in the 12th, one thing I would say is like your intuition can be very strong, and there can be a sense of either doing more kind of devotional spiritual work, but I think of like shamanic work, shamanic drumming, anything in regards to dance, and connecting to that spiritual warrior type versus hanging out with like a bunch of criminals and people who are running around and doing drugs and laundering money. There can be a sense of like overindulgence and things going on behind the scenes that is not positive. Your intuition is going to be bang on, so watch for that. With those conjunctions happening in your 12th house, I feel like you could get some inside information from a friend. And yeah, it's really interesting for Gemini, the fact that this is happening where it is. I feel like it's going to be about whether or not you start acting on what your intuition is telling you.
Oh, that's deep.
There can be lots of like precognitive dreams. 12th house is also hidden enemies. So
Yeah.
you want to be careful with who you're doing business with,
Yeah.
who has access to your resources, your finances, and not allowing yourself to get really stressed out or anxious about money. And be careful about sharing information about your wealth or your status with certain individuals, because it could be used against you.
Beware of the pocket watchers and the IRS.
Especially because this is also for you, Gemini, it's going to be squaring Saturn in your 9th. So this makes me feel like there's like this clash between like your values and your resources and your beliefs. But by the same token, if there is any back deal business stuff going on financially, you're really on the hook for this legally, and you want to be really careful because there could be legal implications for this. For Cancer and Cancer rising, this is a North Node Uranus and Mars conjunction taking place in your natal 11th house. What do you think?
So the 11th house we know is rewards from career, friendships, but every time I talk about Cancer, I always like to look at Pluto and that opposition. We lost Pop Smoke when Saturn was opposite his sun. And that just reinforced the belief I had that cancers are being targeted for whatever reason. I mean, that doesn't apply just to cancers, right? But given that you are getting ready to conclude the final year of Pluto opposite your sign and having to deal with haters and just extremely obsessed haters, this is really going to align the awakening of these partnerships to direct entirely towards who really belongs with you, because this is having you take actions off of the individuals, whether wealthy and genius or just crazy as fuck, you can move forward with and are destined to move forward with, because Jupiter will come here and evolve this, and this is while Jupiter is evolving your career. So you may find that you're switching up your associates, and the whole purpose of the South Node in your fifth is using your talents to be a part of a team, like a basketball player. So this actually seems to be very exciting, especially if you're an artist, especially if you're a creative. You're developing the support you need to sustain self-employment or a passion and a hobby. So
I think it's also like an interesting way to look at it. I mean, Mars is the ruler of your 10th house. It's also the ruler of your 5th. So I think that there can be lots of support that comes through new and innovative and unusual friends. And they might be very wealthy.
Yeah.
And they may have connections, and they may be able to kind of help, push along your creative pursuits or your talents. And you just so happen to start mingling with some of these new people that can really help this incentive of...
And they believe in you.
Yeah, of like the South Node in your 5th and Jupiter in your 10th. And there's something to be said about Cancer and Cancer risings, that there's really positive things on the horizon in regards to being able to really see your dream, profession kind of come into fruition. But I think it's going to come from strange, unusual, and powerful friends.
And it might require not so much a sacrifice, but a risk.
Yeah.
Either in trusting people with Saturn in your 8th, putting yourself out there. Many of you may have a job or something stable, but something creative looks promising. And it's like, are you going to choose between what you really love versus what's stable? You know what I mean? And this would be a time to bet on yourself, if ever there was a time. Not everyone will be in that situation. Some of you can do both, but yeah, don't ever not bet on yourself, because you have more support than
Especially
ever.
with planets moving through your 2nd house. I mean, those planets moving through Leo is just really putting your talent out there, and it's showing people. So if you're trying to get somebody to finance something or back something or invest in something, or even in you or your ideas, there's a sense of you really being like, I can do this, I've got this. And if you just so happen to be within the right group of people, you might have somebody who takes you up on it. I think on the flip side, the square from Saturn in your 8th to Mars and Uranus in your 11th is just a lot of Cancers realizing that there's grief revolving around severing or cutting ties with certain networks or certain friends. And it can definitely take a hit or a swipe at your self-worth. Like, why didn't this person want to be friends anymore? Why don't they talk to me anymore? Why aren't they calling me back? Or, just the loss of a friendship materializing as grief, or the fact that you're moving on to making friends with other people and looking at things very differently and kind of being like, yeah, they're still around, but we're not friends anymore. And still going through that mourning process of not having a friendship. And learning also that money and sex and business don't mix. Saturn in your 8th is kind of saying it doesn't benefit you to have situationships, that once you're mixing business and sex, it can kind of get cloudy and confusing. So you want to be really careful with just anything in regards to doing business with people, and also just anything sexual, that there can actually be some conflict, and it's going to be hard to be friends with lovers, and it's going to be hard to make old relationships friends. So just take that into consideration as well. For Leo and Leo rising, this is a North Node Uranus and Mars conjunction happening in Taurus, which will be in your natal 10th house.
And I'm excited about that. For every time I see Leo rising charts and I see the MC in Taurus, I'm like, oh, this is it for you. That's
go big or go home.
Right? To me, that's unexpected windfalls of income and a whole monopoly. If you do this right, Leo, you have the potential to manifest a monopoly, because the legacy you're creating with Uranus is so unconventional. No one else has done it before. I like to think of Leo rising, Leo King. You know what I'm saying? The model that he had was very different from what other people are doing. And so as the performer on stage, Leo, like, you have the potential to rake in, now this is the opposition to Saturn, support from the collective. And it can make you an instant millionaire. If you're providing something where you have little to no competition and a comparative advantage, you're gonna see a lot of Leos. And we saw a bit of this with Tory Lanez, who put out a NFT project a couple years ago and instantly made like $1 million, like that. And that was the Uranus and Taurus, like using NFTs or something digital that wasn't done before. But regardless, like, we have that T-square, and with the South Node in your fourth, it's transforming where you find comfort in yourself. It's hard to with Scorpio because it's very complex, and being dramatic, you have all this like pure chaos or just difficulty. It doesn't be difficulty, but like intensity within your private world. And so this is going to enable you to release a lot of that. Well, I'm not going to say release, but unlock a lot of your hidden treasures in order to really manifest that groundedness in the world. So the thing about that is I think people might see Leos just become rich out of nowhere. Not that they weren't rich before, but like it's consolidating a next level of wealth before most people know what to do with it, attracting a crowd. And what do you think about Neptune in the 8th? Because that's so shady to me. Like,
yeah, but Jupiter's going to go retrograde back into that, you know, so I do see the opportunity for like wealth, but I think for a lot of Leo risings is the North Node Uranus. I mean, you're going to see, you know, who you are meant and not meant to align with over the next 2 months. I think because Uranus rules your 7th house of partnership, it can be like, does it make sense to be a part of a power couple? Does it make sense to bring on a manager? Does it make sense to partner with a friend and start some new business? And that's the new radical idea. Huge status changes are going to be happening for Leo risings, I think. And it's going to be challenging because you're going to have to say no to some people and you're going to have to say yes to others. And a lot of Leo season for you is going to be sorting and sifting through like who you got to cut off in order to really achieve this stardom that you're coming into, or like this kind of, you know, powerful position where you may be the CEO or you may be the person who comes up with a radical new idea, and suddenly, you know, you're kind of put on the world stage. I mean, the 7th and the 10th house deal with fame, they deal with exposure. There's a lot of being in those spotlights. So I think you're going to be thinking a lot more of just who you're working with and who you're partnering with in general. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And especially, you know, we mentioned Neptune, but I would definitely...
Neptune's in the 8th, but Jupiter's going to swing back into there. So I think, you know, Jupiter, for you guys being the ruler of the 5th, is just where you're really going, you know, ham on just really focusing on your own thing, your own talents, your own creativity. On the flip side, you know, it can also be talking about having some defining moments in relationships where you're like, are we doing this or not, you know? Or
business partnerships that like help bring you to the top too.
Yeah.
And kind of connect through to that.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Damn, I wish I... yeah.
Yeah.
We got the Jupiter trine, which will definitely ascend your view of yourself.
I think that's really positive.
It's a rising star year too.
It's going to be really helpful having those Jupiter aspects, because I think if anything, it's going to help Leo maintain the faith and have like a lot of support and expansion in regards to publishing, law, legality, teaching, traveling. So there's definitely a lot. And Jupiter loves being in the 9th house. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's really awesome. Just be careful about those boundaries, because Leo, you're on stage, so like there's so many people that want your light. You know, Neptune in the 8th is just very shady to me. It could even be you embroiled in some illegal activity yourself, but just be very mindful, not to say not to do it or do it, but you know, not everyone has your best interests, and Neptune in the 8th is so shady. Like, so you can really believe someone has your best interests and they're a fucking snake.
Yeah.
So like, for real, be careful. But nothing to be afraid of, just to be aware of. Cause that's what I wanted to say. You're destined to achieve your legacy this year. Like North Node in your 10th house is legacy, success. Like you're destined to manifest it. You can't not. Some of you are trying to run away from it. You can't run away from it. You have to take the burden of this responsibility and deal with more people than you're used to because you're the main character.
Yeah.
So,
I like that moon in Taurus. It suits me, the moon in Virgo with the trines too, because you're all about that paper. Focusing on making money and resources, what you're bringing in, and just feeling really aware of like your worth, I think is a big thing. So we've got now Virgo and Virgo rising. You have got North Node Uranus in the sign of Taurus coming into conjunction also with Mars in Taurus. This is all going to be happening in your natal 9th house. So it's happening in a fellow sister sign. It's an earth sign. So you'll be experiencing trines, especially if you have any placements between 17 and 19 degrees of Virgo. What can I say about this? I mean, I think the interesting thing that I've seen for like Virgo rising charts is the spontaneity that can come about with like sudden innovations in travel or your beliefs or what you're learning. Like you're learning more about your philosophy or the universe and the world around you. It seems to be challenged a little bit by Saturn in your 6th. A lot of you guys are realizing that like health is like about a mind, body, spirit balance. And so there is some need to like educate yourself about vibration and energy. Maybe you're dipping your toe into like other cultures or other belief systems. Maybe it's just a sense of really fine tuning and doing workshops or going back to school and like learning new innovative ways. So you have that edge in the workspace. But scheduling seems to be the biggest challenge, I think, with the squares to Saturn, and whether that's making time to get everything done on your to-do list or going to the gym or eating well, or even just making time for travel. That square seems to be a little uncomfortable. But because Uranus rules your 6th house, which does deal with delays or workspace or what have you, it's trining your planets in Virgo, you're able to like assess the situation and problem solve. And a lot of it is just as a result of really shifting your beliefs and your philosophy about what it means to be of service and to serve. So it's kind of bringing up that theme, that crisis of like Virgo that's like always having to like help other people and perfect things, and like how maybe you can shift your beliefs revolving around that. What do you think?
I mean, we have to keep in mind that we had the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, right, in their 7th house. One thing I love about Virgo is with Pisces in the 7th, y'all sponsor divine partnerships. So, you're getting ready to complete, and that's why I can't wait for Virgo season. Oh my God. Like, it's going to be the dream made real.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be lit. So much being exposed. So, like, you are taking ideals about your relationships and what you want, and coming to your birthday season, you're going to become that ideal. You're going to become the person that you want to manifest. And so Leo season is so crucial because this is going to transcend old beliefs that have gotten in the way of that. And so I feel like the way you stand on values that influence your philosophy will do a lot to really influence what you teach to others. So a Virgo rising that I know initiated all of us into shamanism. And this happened while the North Node was in her 9th. What is she doing? She's teaching. She's in graduate classes, teaching what she knows and whatnot. So this is having you really ground a lot of the analysis many of you have done your whole career. And what I love about this is certain attitudes and insights that are non-tangible. Like a magician, like you're able to materialize these philosophies and really just terrify people with the receipts you have that you pull out of thin air at that. But what do you think about Jupiter in the 8th? I think you might have mentioned it. But
I think the Jupiter in the 8th is lending energy to going deeper into like sexual healing and awareness of vulnerability and the true need to like really emotionally open up when it comes to merging with other people. I mean, a lot of Virgo risings are either rising to the occasion and realizing they're ready for a real relationship, or they have found themselves in one and they're realizing like, oh my God, now I have to merge resources. Now I have to talk about debt and fears and trauma. And it's all from the past, right? Because Jupiter rules the 4th. So I've seen this theme for a lot of Virgo risings is like finding love with people at a distance, or they're in a different state or a different country or a different culture. So the way to come together is like marriage, to facilitate being able to make time to see each other. So like there's a lot of like baptism by fire in just learning what it means to be
risks too.
Being vulnerable in a relationship, for the most part. But I think that, the Uranus trines to your planets in Virgo is going to help you make sense of the delays and be innovative, and really looking at the delays as putting forth situations that push you further into like learning more about your beliefs and needing to radically change your beliefs.
I love that. And we can also take into account Pluto in their 5th.
Yeah.
Transforming more of how creative. That's what I love about Virgo with Capricorn in the 5th. Like Aries wants to have fun with Leo in the 5th, but Virgo has to make the greatest work of art.
Yeah.
You know, they have
Well,
to be perfect.
a lot of you guys have been learning that you have to make playtime, you know, like
or be serious about fun.
Yeah, being serious about fun, or organizing fun, or getting
Work hard,
serious
play hard.
about, you know, what you're creating. And so now maybe it's about, well, learning more about advertising and how you're kind of breaking into these global markets and getting like more eyes on you. So you're going to see lots of physical changes with the Earth trine. So I think it's going to be really beneficial for Virgo. Yeah.
The Earth trine specifically,
Yeah.
And being that they're social, they can bring in a lot of new social insight about how people can make better money, live their life. So, and once again, teaching people. So
yeah, especially if you're like in the health, wellness,
Right.
fitness, or just, you know, the field of giving service to others. That's definitely a way to expand and start teaching.
So for Libra, I love talking about Taurus and Libra because I've seen like almost every Libra that I've seen is a crypto wizard. Like all of them not only are into crypto, they know that shit. Like they're making money with that shit. Like they just get it. Every single Libra I know is just like either like into it, or like I know one that can draw charts of crypto coins. I know someone else that, you know what I'm saying, other people doing classes. So it makes sense. Taurus is in their 8th house of investments, and you have Uranus there, and they're the most intelligent zodiac sign. So it's important because they're the social leaders in like pushing that narrative. You have Libras that are against it too, but like still, I don't know any. But also, you know, outside of crypto, outside of stocks, we know that you're unlocking your pure value. You're using your wisdom as a resource to deal with and trust the right individuals with what you have. You know what I'm saying? I like to see this as taking the underground luxury in Scorpio and grounding it, the oil in Scorpio, and putting it into a petrol can to sell for gas. So that's how I like to just see a Scorpio to Taurus. So, you know, excavating and grounding that earthly wisdom, or that wisdom, into earth. So, you know, there are going to be some cuts made. I think Saturn in the 5th is taking the evolution of your creativity. It's making you more serious about your craft. When Saturn went through my 5th as a Gemini sun, and it went through Libra, I was talking a lot with Chris Witecki, and he was helping me understand that I'm figuring out what I love. And I didn't know what I really loved to do at the time. I knew I loved to rap. I knew I loved to, you know, perform, but it was more of a hobby. It wasn't anything. It wasn't until that I started to take it serious. And many of you Libras are coming around the block. You know what I'm saying? Like a Lil Wayne, or if you're a young Libra, you're starting to establish this for the first time. So it's having you come back to the drawing board of what is the full vision. And so that square to the 8th is, who can you trust with their creative insights that won't steal those ideas? Who can you trust, you know, with this more creative, passionate, even though it's detached in Aquarius, part of yourself? And I think that with Jupiter, the key here is Jupiter opposite you. That's just going to blow open the lid of very lit people that can help you achieve and accomplish your vision. And as long as you don't make the wrong decisions, because Uranus is unpredictable, so you can invest in the wrong thing. You can trust the wrong person, but that high risk will bring the greatest reward. And because destiny is aligned with it, just know that whatever you're going to do, good or bad, you are destined to do. So yeah, I would just embrace that transformation.
Yeah, I think the North Node, you know, Uranus conjunction with Mars in the 8th house definitely deals a lot with like partnerships and the psychological kind of things revolving around partnerships and creativity and like who you share with and who you don't. And like the 5th house is more sex and more pleasure and having fun, and the 8th house is real intimacy. So I think for a lot of Libras, it's been challenging with the Saturn squares because you have to actually plan playtime. You have to plan date nights. You have to plan anything in regards to kind of cutting loose and having fun. And values are changing. I mean, it's always difficult when you're dealing with like Libra because it could go one way or the other. You're always wanting to kind of restabilize the scales. Being a Libra rising, I feel like a lot of what's been going on for me with Saturn in the 5th, square planets in the 8th, and the square to the South Node in the 2nd is, am I creating for the sake of creativity's purpose, or am I creating because I feel like I need to make something that's going to make money? And so there's been this reoccurring theme that's like create for the sake of creativity, bring things to life for the sake of playing and having fun. And like some of the most productive things I've done throughout the Saturn transit the last 2 years have been things that I'm like, I just want to do this. I don't really care if it makes money. That's not my end goal. I just feel like this is going to be fun and I want to do it. And those have been the things that have really worked. One of which is this podcast. I was like, all right, cool. We'll just keep doing it. But big risk, big reward also with some of these placements. And I would just say you've got your 5th house lord in the meeting Mars in the 8th house. So there is going to be some very taboo things going on sexually. There's also going to be this theme of like unexpected pregnancy that could be happening with the squares between Saturn in the 5th and Uranus and Mars in the 8th house, and like the repercussions that come from that, and like needing to financially kind of plan is one thing that I would watch for as well. But yeah.
Good for self-employment though too.
Yeah.
For some of you starting a business.
Yeah, but also inheritances. You know, there might
Yeah.
be people who owe you money. There might be money that's due to you karmically. Inheritances are just your part of something that's owed to you that's going to come back. So you're going to see an increase of sales or clients or something like that that's going to suddenly kind of take off from this conjunction.
You also want to be mindful of. Oh, okay, no. I got a little. I was. It does apply to you, but I'm gonna say that for Scorpio.
Okay, so let's get to Scorpio. So Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this is going to be important because the North Node, Uranus, and Mars, which is your ruling planet, will be meeting in your 7th house of relationships. Okay, this is open enemies. This is also marital partners, business partners, and it's in the sign of Taurus.
What do you think about this? I read someone this morning, the same person I spoke to about earlier, and she mentioned how she's a Gemini, her husband's a Gemini, but her husband's a Scorpio rising, and she's like an early Sag rising. And I was like, wow, both of you meet at Scorpio, and they both just recently got married, and like in Gemini season, and that happened during the composite and natal for the husband, North Node in his 7th and their 7th house as a Scorpio rising. So, you know, great for partnerships, but I thought that was like really defining.
I had that with my husband. So when we got married a couple days before the
Scorpio
North Node eclipse in Taurus. Yep.
Yeah.
So it happened when there was an eclipse in our composite 7th. It was in my
That's amazing.
8th house,
Oh,
and it was
shit.
right on his Vesta in the 7th.
Yo, I
So,
love that. That's
yeah, I
really
mean, it makes sense. I mean, I would say Godspeed to Scorpio risings. Like, good luck. You know, because there's a lot of things that are going to be out of your control, which is interesting because it is, but it isn't. Because the 7th house is other people, but because it's Mars that's making the conjunction to the North Node in Uranus, you may be provoking other people. And whether this means you're provoking your spouse or you're provoking, I don't know, there's something that you're going to provoke. You could cut somebody off and then get into an altercation, you know, like in an intersection. Just other people are going to be more reactionary. So one thing I would watch for, and when we break it down archetypally, Mars in the 7th house is just going to bring feisty individuals, but it could also bring like a lot of passion and a lot of sex. And with the North Node, it's going to be people who are really adamant about working with you, having sex with you, partnering with you, being affectionate with you, because it's an earth sign. You might have partners that are just really adamant about making money, and they're just really grinding it out. And, you know, you guys are really putting a lot of emphasis in being able to produce. But it's going to meet with Uranus, which is the ruler of your 4th. So there does seem to be a sense of like meeting people in other places, partners getting restless and suddenly wanting to move. There can also be this friction between the relationship that you have with your family and your partner. And you're arguing with a business partner about your responsibilities at home, or you're going back and forth with a partner about responsibilities at home. And my husband's a Taurus sun in the 7th, and he's Scorpio rising, and it's all happening. It's all like a lot of, we work together, we're married, we're living together, talking about all these changes. So I've seen it happen, and I'm well aware that I'm Uranus in that shit show. But I think that what's interesting is that I think the Mars-Uranus conjunction gives Scorpio risings the opportunity just to completely upend how relationships have always been. And so a lot of Scorpio risings are learning to partner differently than they've partnered in the past and let the past be in the past. And they're also learning that there can be this unique fusion of new innovative ways of partnering and also the home and what you're doing within the home. So you might see that there's just going to be a lot going on with your partner's family, perhaps. You know, fourth house is a little iffy because it's happening in the seventh, but it involves the fourth house lord. So you may need to be the rock or the pillar for a partner right now or a spouse as they go through conflicts with their family, as they go through a family death, as they go through some kind of family crisis, and like you're holding space for that. So
yeah,
it's a lot. It's gonna be a lot because then you're gonna see squares happen to Leo in the 10th house. So then the emphasis becomes like, okay, responsibility and career and parenting. So Scorpio risings, it's gonna be an intense month.
And just to kind of speak on it again, like it is a house of open enemies. So just expect people to just dislike you for no reason, like just unpredictably. Maybe they just didn't like the way you breathed and now they have a vendetta. And the North Node is your challenge. So it's very challenging to really go outside of yourself and ground with mere mortals. Already that's very challenging. So, you know, it's going to really coincide with this full-on definition and evolution of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you're having to integrate that into these partnerships, and
and let the past be in the past.
Exactly, yeah.
Let the past be in the past.
I have a feeling it could be other people that have a problem letting the past be the past, and you're just the recipient of just mad projection because that Mars is. It doesn't have to be bad. It could also be obsession, admiration. It's you, Scorpio, so it's going to be obsession. But we'll see. It is what it is. Yeah.
So the 9th house for Sag, we're going to see that Mars and the North Node and Uranus are conjunct in your 6th house. The 6th house, not the 9th house, sorry. So it's happening for Sagittarius in the 6th house. Daily routine, pets, coworkers where you're working, your schedule. I like this for Sag in terms of totally upending and innovating their schedule and possibly trying to like work more independently or be freelance. I am not thrilled about the effects that this can have on Sagittarius rising for their mental health or anything in relation to anxiety, because I do feel like there can be a lot of stress with like changes going on in your 6th house. So it's like, you know, inconsistent schedules, trying to kind of, you know, hire staff, expanding businesses, but there's like a lot of mental stress and a lot of conflict that's coming with that. Taurus creates a natural in conjunct or quincunx to Sag. So it's almost like Sag is going to struggle with consistency and sticking to a schedule and a routine and like following the rules a little bit. This conjunction of your 12th house lord in the 6th with the North Node makes me feel like there can be subconscious issues or fears or things that are manifesting as physical health problems, which may be derivative of just not having enough fun, not having breaks, not taking vacations, and not having enough creative time. So I could see that there's like this incentive where you're wanting to kind of streamline work so that way you can have more time off. But you got to really watch for like health issues, drama with coworkers. There can also be neurological issues or like stress going on with the nervous system, digestive issues, and you don't want to be rushing into a new fitness or health regimen.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do that too quickly, I feel like with the Saturn-Mars squares, makes me feel like you're going to break a bone or roll an ankle or sprain something, and you really need to take your time and not be rushing because you're more prone to accidents with Saturn being in your natal 3rd house and a square to the South Node in the 6th.
I love how it's
the North Node in the 6th, excuse me.
It's breaking through a lot of them into just advanced money making. Like so many okay, I'm not gonna generalize, but Pluto in the 2nd, just breaking through like that Sag level, making millions, multi-millions. You know what I mean? But that Uranus in the 6th, whether you're making millions or not, right? That Uranus in the 6th is your capacity to literally create a lifestyle on your own terms.
Yeah.
So you're literally unlocking outdated, unconscious beliefs and paranoia that you can't see, and you're creating a new lifestyle, taking in the pure wisdom you have and making it real.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of you have these visions about things that can't be put into words, but now you're living it. And the coolest thing is Jupiter's evolving your creativity any new business ideas and new projects you can instantly integrate and make a living off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you're already making a living, you're definitely more in a position to just spruce it up
Yeah.
and take it to the next level. So that's Swaggitarius, you definitely, get in the bag, Baggitarius. So that's what's up. I would just say many of you are having issues disassociating between the Pisces square and what you see. I know a 29-degree Pisces moon that was like freaking out because during Gemini season, her visions, like not just visions, like she was having visual hallucinations and like they were real. You know what I mean? Like she was harnessing so much of the energy, like it was really difficult. And I can imagine a lot of Sages are whether through dreams or just dealings with other people, like what is it about it that was real? What is it about it that, we're seeing? And I just see it as an integration process and you getting ready to harness the higher upper levels of your own abilities, because Saturn is mastering these advanced abilities in your third, and you're coming into knowledge about how to use more of these advanced abilities that have evolved. So yeah, I mean, kudos to my opposite sign. Y'all some haters, but it is what it
Interesting to
is.
see how it manifests for them, for sure.
Yeah.
So for Capricorn and Cap rising, we've got the North Node, Uranus, and Mars all meeting in your natal 5th house, and Taurus in your natal 5th house, and it's in a sister sign, so it's in an earth sign. So you're going to be experiencing trines to your planets in Capricorn, trines to Pluto. So that's going to be interesting to watch for. I'm so excited for Cap risings.
Word.
Yeah, I feel like they're finally aligning with things that they've been asking for and praying for a very long time. I feel like the 5th house eclipses is about taking chances. I feel like with the North Node and Mars being there, it's also really reminding you that if you want to start building on your personal life, now is the time. Whether that's meeting somebody and moving in together, getting married, buying a house, starting a family, renovating your space, you're taking the Lord of your 4th house, which is Mars. You're also taking the Lord of your 11th house, which is Mars, goals, Aries, and it's meeting in the 5th. So a lot of you guys are going to say, I love you, or I love this. A lot of you guys are going to be focusing on fertility and pregnancy and having children and the sharing in that with somebody that you're really in love with.
Apparently they don't sell Plan Bs anymore, so if you're not trying to take that risk...
what? That's in certain states, I'm sure.
It has to be in certain states, because that would be a nightmare. But, I mean, I'm not saying for me, but maybe, but no, I'm just joking. But I'm completely joking. But, yeah, that there is a strong possibility that you can unexpectedly get pregnant. Now, here's the thing. The North Node's involved. So if it is, it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And that's your solace. If any of you have a kid you didn't want to have, just know it was destiny. So it is what it is. And you're unlocking the resources of your own team that you spent 10 years since North Node and Scorpio building, and the people who really love you, so that you can come into independent success doing what you love. They're going to support.
Especially if it's like artistic pursuits or anything that's like more creative. Like if you're wanting to get into like perfumery or a floral arrangement or singing or music or painting, there's something there because Uranus rules your 2nd house. So it's like, how can you not just make it, but how can you make it and how can you sell it? And how can that be like the next big thing for you in terms of being able to like really, get that out there and turn a side hustle into what could be like a full-time profession and really enjoy what you're doing. But by the same token, there is a lot to be said about fertility for Capricorns. It's a lot about fertility. So whether that's fertile ground when it comes to creating or like actually having children, the North Node Mars Uranus conjunction can be suddenly meeting somebody you fall in love with and then realizing you want to have a kid. And then next year, as Jupiter goes into your 5th house, it could also materialize as being like, okay, well, I want to be doing that next year. So, where am I living and how am I playing house now? So there could be a lot of talking about that now. If you already have kids and you're like, that's not my thing, it could be that your kids are having kids. It could be that you're making money off the stock market. Because the 5th house is speculative in games or casinos, and you're more willing to take risks, but there could be more reward. I would say be careful because there will be squares to Saturn. So you might win some and you might lose some. So even if you have a big win, it doesn't mean that you want to put it all back into the slot machine, or the casino. But those of you guys who are into games of chance, it can be really positive for you as well. And I feel like you're really going to fall in love with something. And Taurus can be gardening, cooking, painting. It's going to be more than just gambling. It's going to be taking chances and like really trying to learn something that's more artistic or creative.
And Saturn the second is securing so much more wealth. Like it's building so much more strength in your network.
Yeah.
So that the quality, this is huge for you, Cap, quality over quantity. Like there could be people with millions of followers, but they go live and like no one rarely even like invest in their services versus you who has like 30 people and you make like $600 off one live. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Powerful strength.
Talent.
And a lot of, and
talent.
Strengthening your talent too.
Talent, yeah.
Very true. Very true.
I think for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, the Mars North Node Uranus conjunction happening in your 4th house, thankfully it's more private. But it's super fucking active. Do not underestimate this. So you've got Mars and Uranus meeting in your 4th. Uranus is your chart ruler. It's your modern day ruler. Mars deals very specifically with communication. It's going to deal also a lot with your career. This conjunction in the 4th house makes me feel like you're really striving for independence. Some of you guys might be opting to move, or you're having squabbles with family and you're like moving in or out of places, or you're like wanting to define life on your terms, especially with squares to Saturn that's in your sign. Now, some of you guys may be opting to like focus on working more from home or trying to kind of streamline your life in a way where you can be at home more. What do you think?
I like that. Many of you could be moving. Like every time, especially if you're a Cap rising, like everyone who I've ever read that had Jupiter going through their 4th either moved or renovated their home.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty, I don't notice it as much. It does happen with the sun, but yeah, even if you're not moving, this is really forcing you to expand the comfort, whether out or in your comfort zone, you have with who you are. Are you comfortable with who you are? Because that's what's going to fuel into how confident you are expressing your talent.
I remember when I had Saturn go through my 1st house square, my natal Uranus in the 4th, and it did materialize as like moving out of living in one situation and moving into another and having to like really deal with issues with the family and then like redefining my own space. So I think that for a lot of Aquarius risings, seeing that square from Saturn to your 4th house is like, okay, this family member has been a problem for too long. I'm out, or I've lived in my hometown my whole life. It's time for me to venture out, or finally finding like your independence and like breaking free from things. It's challenging because the South Node is going to be in your natal 10th, and you've got planets going through Leo in your 7th. So you might feel like you're quitting your job, your relationship, and where you're living all at one time. But changes come in 3s, so if that's the experience that you're having, it's almost like the real jump off is happening in July and August, and you have to pay attention to getting into a home space that feels like you're creating your own family. So with Uranus in your 4th, it's like you might go and buy property or live on property with a bunch of other people, and there's like, you know, communal grow ops and gardens, and you're developing your own sense of family through friendships.
Uranus in the 4th? For Aquarius?
For Aquarius rising.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's Taurus. So
Okay.
the North Node, Taurus, and
I
Mars.
thought we were on Capricorn.
Oh no, we're in Aquarius.
I was like,
We're
damn.
Aquarius. We're in Aquarius.
That's wild. Okay. That's why I was talking about moving for Jupiter for Cap. My bad.
Well, for both
Okay.
of them though, because next year.
Because 3rd
Aquarius
house, 4th
is gonna-
house, yeah.
Yeah.
And the North Node is still in the 4th.
Movement is
yeah.
the 3rd, and where you're living
so
is the 4th.
moving is the 3rd, but
Yeah.
the home is the 4th. Right.
Yeah.
Because I noticed 3rd house can simulate moves.
You were
too.
right though. Like when I had eclipses in my 3rd house and I had Jupiter in my 4th, I was planning on moving, and then I did move.
Move. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah. But, you know, I think just on the top of Aquarius, you guys are going to have to go your own way, and you might ruffle a few feathers with roommates or family members or what have you, but you have to go your own way because Saturn's going to keep challenging the 4th house, which means you're going to focus more on your own sense of authority.
And personally, you know, for Capricorn and Aquarius, don't let Saturn inhibit your sense of your talent. Because I really get the sense that, like, let me use the example of an artist. Like, you're going to really believe in this song, and it just does mid, right? But then you don't want to put out this one song because you don't think it's good enough, and that's the one that goes viral. So, like, be free to just put stuff out, because I really feel for you, it's going to be that project that you don't really have the most faith in or think that's much, that's going to do it. And it doesn't have to be like that, but it's just that unexpected element of, wow, I wasn't expecting this to be the one that went well. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only saying that so that you don't not put it out because it's not good enough for you. And Neptune in the second is also, you know, strangely enough, transcending the concept of manifestation. Your mind is the strongest in the zodiac. So if you imagine it, it starts happening. I know I revealed a secret, but you know, this is definitely enabling you more so than ever to harness the knowledge of control and karmic authority to command this. So yeah, I mean, I think everything you said about the fourth was very amazing, and Jupiter is evolving your skills and abilities to identify more originally with your attitude. And that will really help you come into more of understanding. And it's unlocking your career in the 10th.
It's also a generational curse breaking.
Yeah.
You know, Uranus in the fourth is uprooting.
Doing something
Saturn's
different in the
there.
family,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
New foundation.
And last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You've got North Node Uranus meeting with Mars in the sign of Taurus in your natal third house.
Yeah.
I mean, 12th house Lord meeting with Mars, the second house Lord. I could see some Pisces that are really making some money by writing, publishing, teaching, online businesses.
Jupiter in the second, expanding your money too. Yeah. It's a good money year.
Yeah, I have like a strong feeling though that it's going to be through you following like your intuition and like your hunches. And even though a lot of you guys feel like you're being isolated right now in the world with Saturn in your 12th, the square between the 12th and the 3rd is like learning to like say less and listen more. And I think Uranus in the North Node in the 3rd is just finding innovative ways to make money online.
Or, absolutely.
Anything in regards to writing, anything in regards to teaching, language, even like courses. So if you're like an artist or a creative and you want to teach people how to design things, doing that online, having an online side hustle. Anything in regards maybe to vehicles as well, or short distance travel, that could be something else that could happen from that conjunction.
With Saturn in your 12th, you're transcending limiting beliefs around what it is you can do. Because Jupiter in the 8th is reminding you, right? Like you can do anything. And so that square to Uranus is challenging the innovation of your attitude and how you can release old doubts around how advanced your beliefs are.
Mental
so that
blocks.
Legitimate mental blocks. Because your connection with Neptune in the astral realm is so magical that with Uranus in the 3rd, everything you're thinking and writing is instantly manifesting.
Yeah.
So you want to write a dream life manifesto in present progressive. I'm doing this, I'm seeing this, and just like stranger than fiction, watch all of that manifest and strengthen now these newly held beliefs. Because you're unlocking a lot of your philosophy and, you know, the occult wisdom that influences your beliefs.
Words of affirmation.
Perfect. Yeah.
And learning a lot about money and resources.
I know a Pisces son that does bliss formation. Shout out to Bliss. And that he literally like curates affirmations for people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that you said that. He's awesome. Shout out to you, bro.
I mean, a lot of it's just like what you're writing, what you're saying, what you're believing. And it's really about overcoming mental blocks and hurdles, I think, with Saturn in the 12th. I also really like the fact that it is going to be making some positive, harmonious aspects to Neptune, which is going to obviously be hanging out in your first house. So it's like a lot of like visualization, prayer, manifestation, and just kind of aligning with your vision. So you're really going to start liking when you see that kind of sync up with Neptune. Anything else?
Well, we do know Pluto in the 11th is kind of awakening power in their associations. And it's just so subtle. So it's not something you see personally, but with a trine light enough to there, the evidence will definitely be seen in what kind of friends you have that extremely align with these ideas and attitudes you ground, which can make way for more wealth too. So yeah, definitely write a book, like she said.
Write a book, teach something, learn astrology. We're working on like tarot. That could be another thing that's really good for Pisces placements because it's all in the 3rd. Yeah.
An unconventional way to learn it, but yeah.
So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Let us know, where are these conjunctions taking place in your chart? Is it heading any personal placements between 17 and 19 degrees of the fixed signs? We'd love to hear it. Come back, leave us comments, let us know how it played out for you. Keep in mind that this conjunction does not necessarily mean that something has to happen that day. This is going to be triggered throughout time, so we're going to see this further unfold as Uranus retrogrades back through the sign of Taurus, when we start seeing the eclipses in the end of October and November when it aspects it, and then finally also into 2024 as we see Uranus and Jupiter conjunct these degrees. So it will make sense as time goes on. Just be really adamant about thinking about what you're innovating depending on where Taurus is in your chart. You can find that by casting your chart with a birth chart calculator, by inputting your time, your date, and your location of birth. If you don't have that, then you can always look at a birth certificate and you can book a reading with myself or Mike to get more insight into what the future has in store for you. As always, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, joining memberships, making it possible for us to be able to do what we're doing and create this podcast for you guys.
And until next time, peace.
Take care, guys.
I was going to be like, join level 3. But it's all good.
Duh.